September 11th, 2001, may we never forget the tragedy and loss of life on that historic day in United States history, and may we extend a hand of understanding around the world so it will never happen again. This is why we remember that day.
I do walking tours of the 9/11 Memorial for the 9/11 Tribute Center. And I meet people on my tours from all four corners of the globe. On every one of my tours, I mention that most people don't remember what they did yesterday. But I have had so many guests on my tours come up to me and say that they remember every single detail about where they were and what they were doing on September 11th, regardless of where they're from.
When you talk to anybody, say, and you tell them where you were on September 11th, they'll tell you exactly where they were, because even though they may not have been in the building, but they'll definitely remember where they were.
People always remember every single moment of that day around the world, because September 11, 2001 is not just New Yorker's story, it's not just my story, but it is international part of history and a history of every single person in the world.
And what I say to my guests all the time is, that's your 9/11 story. And you should tell it, because by telling it, by doing so, you help us to share history, and you help us to keep the spirit of what happened here alive. And I'm inspired by that. That gives me so much hope.
I believe September 11th would be the equivalent of D-Day for certain generations, or Pearl Harbor, or when JFK was assassinated. Those seminal, markers in your history, in your lifetime.
My cousin was in Pearl Harbor. My father and grandfather remember Pearl Harbor. These generations will need to remember.
I think it's important to try to remember some tragedies. Remember that life can be very precious and can be gone in a flash.
These are emotional memories that cannot be translated into a textbook. These are stories that we tell people, and hopefully the generation will understand this here and bring it forward to the next generation.
I feel that a lot of people use September 11th to remember the wrong things, to remember the divisions instead of what brought us together. And I think as more and more time goes by, more and more people just remember the hate that caused that act instead of the love that followed it. We were all one that day. People from New York, DC, all over the country and all over the world. Everybody was united. I think that's why everybody remembers where they were, because everybody's heart was here. I remember.
I remember.
I remember.
I remember September 11th.
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 We asked our River Ridge staff what they remember about that historic day and how it impacted them.
Hi, I'm Ms. Thompson. I just wanted to share my experience with 9/11. When 9/11 happened, I was actually at Cypress Elementary as a teacher, and I was standing in the media center because we were having a meeting, and I was talking to my assistant principal when someone told us what was happening. So we went in our rooms and we watched it on TV. No kids were there yet. But then by the time kids came, we were there to just console them and to let them know that everything was going to be okay. But we were definitely, trying to watch and see this crazy experience that's happening that changed our world. But yeah, I was a teacher. I was a 5th grade teacher, and I ran my class that day. And we now learn about it and learn from our, not even mistakes, learn from our history and what happened and how we are better now.
Hello everyone, I'm Alex Stone, one of the assistant principals at River Ridge. On September 11th, I was actually in 11th grade in Long Beach, New York. My mom worked on the 16th floor of the trade towers. And so that day I remember getting called out of my social studies class to get sent down to the front office. And on the way there, I saw my cousin who was saying, hey, crazy things are happening. And then I walked into the front office and saw my mom, and she said, I want you to know that I'm okay, but there's something happening. And my high school actually overlooked the water, and we could see the giant cloud of smoke that would cover the trade towers that day. So it's important to always remember those people.
Design coach here at River Ridge Middle. I was teaching kindergarten at Chasco Elementary, and we had just gotten out of a morning meeting when we heard the news, and we all kind of rushed around to the TV before the students came into school. The one thing I do remember feeling and still feel to this day is how the country and the community came together to really show our support of each other in that horrible time. And being a member of a law enforcement family, and then also having my neighbor whose husband died in 9/11 as a firefighter, it's really important and special that we celebrate our law enforcement and our first responders on this day.
Greetings, I'm Mrs. Waringa, and I teach language arts here at River Ridge, 7th grade. But on the date of 9/11 years ago, I was teaching seniors in a small school that had kindergarten through 12th. And I remember when the principal called us and notified us, we turned on the TV at that point, and with horror, we saw these buildings fall and be destroyed. At the moment, we had no idea what was happening in our country, but we knew that this was happening here on our land. We've been saved from war so often because it's taken place in other places except for our Revolutionary War, a Civil War. And so this was hitting home. We gathered a little bit later in the auditorium for a time of meditation, prayer, thoughts. And it was then that it struck me that we were to also gather together as a nation. And we were filled with fear. What was happening? Who was attacking us? What was the outcome? But the main thing that I remember is sitting later that day with my 3 sons on the sofa and just saying, how can we help? And so with prayer and with thoughts and phone calls and encouragement, we came together as a nation and got through that as we supported the officers and the people who served. I think that is important to remember. We as a world came together. We as a country came together.
Hi, I'm Nicole Burbridge. I'm an art teacher here at River Ridge, and 9/11 is important to me, and it's important that we remember because I was actually in college. It was my first year of college, and I was in a communications class, and they sent us home because they didn't know what was going on. And when we found out, it was just really sad. And I had friends that were father was a police officer at the time, and he was down there helping out. And we had a community member, husband pass away he was a firefighter, and me and my best friend, we actually made ribbons and sold them and raised money for his wife because they had 4 children. So it's very important because it touched every single person in every community. Even if you didn't know anybody that was in the city at the time, you still knew. And I was in New York at the time, so it was very sad and important that we remember.
September 11th is Patriot Day and a national day of service and remembrance. On this day, Americans across the country are called to volunteer in their local communities in tribute to the individuals lost and injured in the attacks, first responders, and the many who have risen in service to defend our freedom. So how will you show the importance of this day, and how will you remember the sacrifices made by the people affected by 9/11? What will you do to support and serve your community, Royal Knights?